The northern hunting grounds were a brutal arena. 3 factions, each led by a figure of immense power, vied for control.
Yu Ji-won, the cunning strategist.
Huang Kangmin, the stoic defender.
Zhang Byungul, the fiery hothead.
Their rivalry was legendary, a tapestry woven from ambition, pride, and the ever-present threat of betrayal. The prize? Survival in a world teetering on the brink.
Ji-won, ever the pragmatist, saw the bigger picture.
Kangmin, ever vigilant, fortified his defenses.
Byungul, fueled by a thirst for power, plotted his next move.
The tension between them was a living thing crackling in the frigid air. The first sign of trouble came as whispers on the wind. Scouts dispatched to the edges of their territory failed to report back. Their lifeless bodies were found later, bearing the mark of an unknown enemy. Fear, a venomous serpent, coiled in the hearts of the factions. The game had changed. This was no longer about dominance, it was about survival.
Ji-won urged calm, his mind already racing through possibilities.
Kangmin, ever stoic, ordered his forces to redouble their vigilance.
Byungul, his eyes burning with a dangerous light, saw an opportunity amidst the chaos.
Kangmin's camp, a fortress carved into the mountainside, became the epicenter of the brewing storm. The rugged terrain provided a natural defense, but also isolated them from potential allies. Leaders of the factions, their faces etched with worry and distrust, gathered within its icy walls. Each leader carried the weight of their people's survival on their shoulders, knowing that any misstep could lead to disaster. The air crackled with tension. Every word, every glance, a potential spark in the powder keg. The stakes had never been higher, and the pressure was palpable.
Ji-won, his voice a calm amidst the storm, laid out the facts. His steady demeanor provided a brief respite from the chaos as he meticulously detailed the enemy's movements and strategies. The attacks, coordinated and brutal, pointed to an enemy unlike any they had faced before. This enemy was cunning, relentless, and seemed to anticipate their every move.
Kangmin, his gaze sweeping across the assembled leaders, demanded answers. Who was behind this? His voice echoed in the silent room, filled with unspoken fears and unanswered questions. And what did they want? The leaders exchanged glances, each lost in their own thoughts, trying to piece together the puzzle.
Byungul, unable to contain his frustration, slammed his fist on the table, demanding blood for blood. His outburst was a stark contrast to the otherwise controlled atmosphere.
The leaders, their resolve hardening, knew that unity was their only hope. They had to set aside their differences and work together, prepared for the storm that was about to break. The dark clouds on the horizon mirrored the uncertainty and danger that lay ahead. The answer, when it came, was more terrifying than any of them could have imagined. It was a revelation that shook them to their very core, leaving them grappling with a fear they had never known.
A lone survivor, his body broken, but his spirit unbroken, stumbled into Kangmin's camp. His arrival was unexpected, and his condition spoke volumes of the horrors he had witnessed. He spoke of creatures of darkness, twisted mockeries of men, their eyes burning with an unholy light. These were not mere beasts, but abominations that defied the natural order. They were not of this land, he gasped, his voice ragged and filled with dread. His words painted a picture of a nightmare come to life. They sought to claim it as their own, to spread their darkness and consume everything in their path.
A cold silence descended upon the tent, a silence that spoke of the gravity of the situation. The leaders, their faces pale, exchanged uneasy glances. They knew that this was no ordinary threat. This was no petty squabble over territory. This was a battle for survival, a fight against an enemy unlike any they had faced before. This was an invasion, a fight for their very existence. Every soldier, every leader felt the weight of what was to come. For the first time, the weight of their predicament, the sheer hopelessness of their situation, settled upon them. They were facing an enemy that threatened not just their land, but their very way of life. As the leaders grappled with the horrifying truth, a figure emerged from the shadows. Do-yuk, a man shrouded in mystery and whispered rumors, stepped into the tent. His arrival was unexpected, his presence unsettling. He moved with a quiet authority that commanded attention.
There is a way,
Do-yuk declared, his voice deep and resonant, echoing in the hushed silence. He spoke of an ancient prophecy, of a time when factions would set aside their differences and stand united against a common foe. His words, though unexpected, offered a glimmer of hope in the encroaching darkness. Compromise. The very word tasted like poison on their tongues, yet it presented the only possible path to survival. Do-hyuk's proposal was as audacious as it was dangerous. He stood before the council, his voice unwavering, eyes gleaming with determination. He spoke of a ritual, a merging of their powers, a temporary alliance to repel the invaders. The ritual was ancient, its origins shrouded in mystery, but its power undeniable. The risks were immense, the potential for betrayal ever present. One misstep could spell disaster, not just for the alliance, but for their entire world. Yet with their backs against the wall, the leaders found themselves considering the unthinkable, setting aside their differences, however briefly, for the sake of a common goal. The weight of their decision hung heavy in the air.
The air crackled with tension as each leader weighed their options. Voices rose and fell, arguments and counter-arguments clashing like swords.
Jiwon, ever the strategist, saw the potential but also the pitfalls. He mapped out scenarios in his mind, calculating every possible outcome.
Kang Min, ever cautious, questioned the wisdom of trusting a man shrouded in such secrecy. His skepticism was a shield, protecting him from potential betrayal.
Byungul, ever impulsive, bristled at the thought of cooperating with his rivals. His frustration was palpable, a storm brewing just beneath the surface, yet the alternative, annihilation at the hands of a monstrous enemy, was too horrifying to contemplate. The stakes had never been higher, and the path forward was fraught with peril. I will need a volunteer.
Do-hyuk declared, his voice cutting through the heavy silence. The tension in the tent thickened, a palpable thing that pressed down on them all. The ritual, he explained, demanded a sacrifice, a conduit, a vessel through which their combined power could be unleashed.
The leaders exchanged uneasy glances, each reluctant to be the first to speak. The weight of Do-hyuk's request hung over them, a stark reminder of the price of unity, a single volunteer, a single life offered to save them all. But who among them would make that sacrifice?